Welcome back to the next bit. It's the next episode and I've been making jigs. Of course I've been making jigs. What else turns you on? Battery exhausted, she says. I'm fucking exhausted. Before I get you all excited with the new jig, which I've made out of a burl finish, I've basically decided that to get my 7-degree headstock angle, which I've nicked from the boys at Texas Toast, you need a 38mm. Between 38 and 40 is fine. So I've got 38 exactly, give or take, a Nat's codpiece. 38mm neck blank, which is what I'm going to make all of my neck blanks to suit. And I've made a jig to suit this and everything. So I basically make two different types of neck now. Fender necks, which can be one piece or separate, or these bastards. Yum. So we've got new jigs, so I don't have to fuck around with settings. There's a few little tips I've learned. Few little tips. Right, so I've got my template that I made last time by nicking it off my Revstar. That's simple enough. And from that we can get the length of our headstock. Fairly simple. I've got plenty of room down this end. That is an important part, because if you fuck up your head angle, you can always move down the blank. I learnt that the hard way on the one that I'm building for myself. I sorted out this the other day with a guitar that I'm making for myself off screen out of my father-in-law's old mantelpiece. Very sentimental. Things have to have a story when you get old. Bits of wood have to have a story, bit of history with them. And because I fucked up on the jig that I just made, because I was trying it out, I had to move back on my headstock. And I've got a shorter tenon as a result. So, live and learn. Sometimes it's nice to do things off camera. It's relaxing. Building guitars without all this shit going around, it's really, really relaxing. But I do enjoy doing it with you coming along for the ride. That's fine. I like to waffle shit. It's better to think out loud than just have the voices in here, because it's disturbing sometimes. So I can mark on here where my nut is, where my fretboard finishes, and my nut value, thickness, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to transfer those marks across the blank. 1, 2. All right, piece of piss, that, isn't it? I'm going to transfer those marks down the side. Always coming from your datum face. Although, to be fair, at this point, it don't really matter. We're so square and lovely. It's all good. Oh, I love my machinery. I really do. So we've got those marks on there. Now I can transfer the mark. That made no sense at all, but I'll leave that in the edit because I'm a fucking idiot. So headstock thicknesses. How thick are headstocks? Thicker than me kids. And this is a nice Fender headstock. It is 14mm thick. Bear in mind we've got to put an ash plate on, which is going to be about 1 mil, so really 13mm is fine. So I'm going to measure up 13mm from the bottom of there. Oh, it's technical, isn't it? It is really, really technical. What is alarming is the fact that I can barely see that. Luckily, my safety specs, linked down below, Amazonian, very cheap, +1 prescription, which is my prescription. Beautiful, I can see again. And then if I just transfer that line to the top, because obviously the angle of our headstock wants to start at the edge of the nut. Simple. I don't know if you can see that. I don't really care at this point. So I'll put those marks on to line it up. Let us go and meet the burlesque jig. We'll call her that, shall we? I've called it a headstock angle jig because obviously I wasn't very fucking original that day. Anyway, entourage. Right, so there's headstock angle jig. That is designed to take this headstock blank and it sits in these. I can swap them over and I can put this on 2 different angles and I can just run it through the table saw, and as long as I line it up beautifully, we should be absolutely pucker. I'll just show you on the whizzy camera. Let's not get too excited. So you can see that jig needs a little bit more thinking, a bit more fettling, something better to lock it in place, something more elaborate, which I'll get my head around when I've got more time. I like inventing jigs. So if I don't get it quite right the first time, I'm fine with that, because it means I get to have another play, doesn't it? But that is the result we've ended up with, and you can see my first cut, after I glued all this up, I didn't then go back and re-square up my edges, and my first cut was a bit of an angle. So I had to put it through the jointer, that's fine. and then redo it. And it means I've had to move everything back about 3 or 4 mil, which is why we leave the neck blank a bit too big. Always leave it a bit too big. And there we have it. We know where the fretboard starts. Woohoo! Fucking technical. Between me and you, I build my Revstars with a Gibson scale length. So this is a fretboard template I've got from a Flying V that I've still never built, but there is one in the diary, so stay tuned. That thing is going to be an absolute fucking belter. So I know that Revstars meet the body at the 18th fret. I know that because there's pictures and I had one and I've made them. So that is fairly simple, and I also know that there are 22 frets. So even though this Flying V has got a chopped off template, I know I've got to go a bit further. So going by that, I know where the end of my fretboard is, so I can figure out some routes. Piece of piss. First things first, truss rod. Truss rod in use. Once I know the end of my neck, I can have a little mark there. We can square that and we're happy. Bosh, all right? I know where my neck is. I know that I have to rebate this to go under my P90. It's a bit of a conundrum. If you're doing this for the first time at home, this is a tough kind of neck to make, really. You can see why everyone, including me, just builds fender necks to start with for a long time, really. Too long, because they are so much easier. So I'm going to come down 18 mil from the top. We can always make that more. So this is going to get chopped out on the chop saw. We're going to take that chunk off there. That makes life a bit simpler, and then we can get our truss rod route done. Once we've got the truss rod route done, we can get our fretboard squared up nicely to length, get it to the right length, and then once he's squared up and cut to the right length, we can glue it down. And that's how I'm going to do things from now on. I'm going to end up with that glued up piece. What I'm trying to do is make sure that this whole big square lump of straightness stays like it for as long as possible. So now when I put this in the radiusing jig, this thing is staying straight. If you start thinning stuff out, or if I start radiusing just the fretboard, it's a bit of a pain in the ass. So I want it to hold it square and straight for as long as I can. I can get it radius, I can get it in a sanding cork and get it all lovely, and then I can cut the width of this neck and the shape correctly, and then I can put all the frets in. I've still got a super square bottom. Lovely, easy to get frets in, piece of piss. The last job I'm going to do is going to be to cut the profile out and shape it. Now, there is some argument to be said that if you do all that to a neck and the wood moves, if something goes wonky on it, then you're in a bit of trouble. It's a laminated neck, which is inherently more stable. Every way I think of doing it, there are different reasons for not doing it that way. So I'm doing it this way so I can stay straight and true for as long as possible. And let's see how it goes. I think you could probably look at 100 builders on Instagram and YouTube, and we've all got our own ways of doing things. Oh, this is for my Les Paul double cut. This is a channel where we are learning together. Lots of companies do it this way, I've found out. I'm basically nicking this idea. I'm not the first person to come up with this. So I'm nicking other people's ideas. I wish it was mine. It's not fucking mine, is it? Anyway, rebating. Shall we? Right, I'm rebated. Now we're going to get our truss rod groove in, and we're going to get our fretboard stuck on. Yes, that's going to be amazing. We'll do that after lunch though. I'm going to go and have some Spanish grains and chili sauce, because that's the way I fucking roll. See you in a moment. I've got a bit of an unusual thing to do because I want to get me comfort carve right on this, don't I? So I'm all chopped out. I'm ready to go. I'm weight relieved as much as I'm going to weight relief. That's going to get glued on there. Simple, innit? I've got my centre line all marked out. I'm just going to mark out where the comfort carve is. Cracking. I'm going to mark that from the back. That is the apex. Apex. Fucking hell. Are we getting a bit posh? That is the apex of my comfort carve. I'm going to score that on the chop saw now. 1 centimetre either side. And I'm going to leave about 2 mil. And I'm just going to come back and see if I can gently tease that down. If I can, and we're looking pretty good, we'll just assess it as we go. I've never done this. I need to figure out if I can do it to my epoxy tops as well. But we'll try it with this first. Let's cut to a bit of a chop saw montage and you can see kind of what I'm doing. Famous last words, but that might be enough. And I think it is. That actually folds down rather nicely, snug. So let's get her glued on and clamped up with a million clamps. We use the big tub, shall we? No fucking nonsense. There we go, gas mark 4, come back to that tomorrow. Let's do a bit of neck work. Note to self, too much glue. Well, we're at the stage where we need to start thinking about truss rods. It's a fairly simple process because I've made a simple jig, because it's not all simple upstairs. There's a little bit going on. A few cogs are turning, and I've made a nice new jig for my nice new neck standard. I've decided, like I said before, all of my neck blanks are going to be between 38 and 40 mil thick. That gives me a 7-degree headstock angle, which is perfect for strength, brake angle, and all the rest of it. I nicked that idea from Texas Toast because they know more about guitar building than I do. And I'm learning every day, just like you are, watching me learn and trying. It's a fucking endless cycle of shit, innit? Get out there and make your own mistakes. That's the best thing you can do. So there's me neck blank. We know what a neck blank looks like because we've made lots, and most of you are regulars. Here is a truss rod, it's a spoke wheel truss rod. If you don't know how one of these works, when you turn the spoke wheel truss rod, it shortens one rod and keeps the other one the same, and then it gives you bendiness. So you can bend it either way, either way, either way. It's fascinating stuff. It's the simplest of tools. It's basically the mechanical equivalent of a man. I've marked where the end of that is. Obviously I know where that end goes because it's going flush with the end of me doofer. What's it? How simple can we make things? How simple? And what I'm going to do this time is keep everything flush. My fretboard is going to finish flush with the end, and I'm going to router a little recess into the body so the truss rod sits into the body, and we'll just leave a little bit of space before the P90. It just opens everything up a little bit, makes it look a little bit less cramped. Ultimately, it's a tiny detail that doesn't make much of a difference. It's all aesthetics, isn't it? That's what I've got in my head, so that's what I'm going to put on the wood. That's what I'm going to make. Get your Kleenex ready. I'll go and get the new jig. I'll put it on the table, and we'll see who comes first. It's a little bit less cinematic because I've got to walk past the camera. Oh, he's dispelling the mystery. Oh. Right, here is me new jig. Make sure I've got all that in the camera. I've got to look at little Dave sometimes and make sure that he's got the whole wallop in there. Right, so on the top there, me router sits. We've seen this before. It rides up and down the channel. Makes life very easy. This is a tight one in the... Oh, he's tight. He's very tight. I've made this box specifically to hold these big ass neck blanks. I can get that on me centre line, piece of piss. I could tighten these up and I can hold me neck blank where he needs to be. Oh, the science of rockets. I know what you're thinking.
It's not rocket science.
So these side walls are the same height as my neck blank. So everything should just sit down nice and easy. And then we just make sure that we are nice and central. I'm not, I need to go a millimetre that way. So let's do that, shall we? Needs to go over about a business card. Not a lot. There, lovely and central. Within half a cod piece. Do you know how big a cod piece is? It's in between a haddock piece and a badger's pube.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
You might have to Wikipedia that. So now when I sit that on there, I'm going to run my router through all the way to the end and up to that mark. I'll make a little note of where that mark is, and I won't go too far because you want to have wood under your nut. There's a good technical term for you, isn't it? Good technical term. So let's get over to the router station. I'm going to go through with a 6mm router bit. Why am I going to go through with a 6mm router bit? Because the truss rod is fucking 6mm. That's the wrong end pull, mug. I'm not editing that out. I'll leave that in. People love a blooper. Onwards! And if you're wondering how deep to set your depth stop, use the actual truss rod. Well, that was exciting, wasn't it? Were you excited? I was fucking excited. Little Dave's not even looking at what I wanted to look at. So the reason I like spoke wheel truss rods is A, because they're bloody easy to adjust on a guitar. It's a piece of piss. No Allen keys needed. None of that guff. You can stick your fucking and sort them out. Easy to adjust. They're also easy to fit and install. So basically, now that's in there, I just need to make an adjustment because the end of my truss rod is bulbous. Of course it's bulbous. And that is simply just a little bit of chisel work. Mark where the end of him is. It's basically chisel out the wenge. Now when your truss rod goes in, contrary to belief, you're trying to get it as flush as you can with the top. If it's 1/2 mil low, don't shit your pants. It's not the end of the world, because the truss rod's still going to work and act as it's going to, even with a teeny tiny gap. Very seldom is your truss rod not doing anything. It's always tweaked one way or another. So don't panic too much. As long as he's not proud, give it a twat, Paul. Give it a twat, why not? Thank you, Peter. As long as it's not proud, it's all fine. That is all you've got to do, and that truss rod is installed. Now, the glorious part is the fact that the way that I'm doing things now, which could be fucking shit, but who knows? I've marked the centre of me fretboard, piece of piss. I know the centre of my neck because it's got a bloody great brown stripe in it, like my pants. I can line up the back. The thickness of my binding's short because I've got to bind this bugger, and I fuck knows how I'm going to do that when it's all together. I don't actually know, figure that out. Now the idea is that I can run a binding bit down the sides. It's not a problem. Can't do that when the truss rod's in there, so I need to make sure that that distance is correct before I start. Up there, I know. It's almost like I've been thinking about it at home. So I need to glue this one down now. The glorious thing about how we've done this, that is the size of a fretboard. I know where that's going to go. I can put some locating pins on the outside now, here and here, and it's not going to matter because they're going to end up being cut away. That's a piece of piss, isn't it? Even better. There was some talk about putting carbon in this neck. I don't use carbon in necks. I think it's largely a waste of fucking time, especially if you're just going for a traditional thickness and if it's got a bloody great bar of wenge in it. Stiffer than a teenager at 9 AM. Right, so I know where that's going. I'm going to drill some locating pins. We don't even have to be that central with the fretboard, to be fair. You've only got to be close enough's good enough, because we're going to chop it all off. Make sure I'm all good. Make sure my truss rod is pushed in where it's got to go. Drill some locating pins. 2 mils, a couple of cocktail sticks. You could even screw the bastard down if you want, because you're going to chop it off. 1 cocktail stick. Simplicity at its finest. Pop that one off. Take them off for a minute. Bit of tip over there. We don't want to be getting glue in our truss rod channel. That is detrimental to the overall functionality of it. Proper job. Everything's looking marvellous. Now ordinarily I like to clamp all the way at the edges, because there's nothing worse than gluing a fretboard on and then coming back, taking your clamps off, and you've only clamped in the middle and you haven't got the tightest. It's got to be almost invisible. We're binding this, not so important, but I still like to do it that way. I want to clamp all the way up the sides and I want to make sure it's fucking banging. Now I've said it before, shit clamps are shit. These blue things are not very good at all. These red ones I just got off Amazon. I took a bit of a gamble and actually they're pretty good. You do need loads of clamps if you're going to make guitars. You could do at least 20 odd, and these are pretty good. They'll do for most jobs. Bit of common sense, alternating the direction so you can get to all your handles, otherwise it gets a bit tight, doesn't it? Right, I've got glue squeeze out all the way along. I'm not going to bother cleaning anything off because we're chopping it all off. I just want to make sure I've got glue everywhere, so I'm happy with the fit. That's all fine. That can just go to the side now and get fucking drying. I've got to think about inlays, and they're going to be copper circles. It's a lot of copper theme. Very copper, very bit like me tipsing I've just done. How dare I? How dare I liken this to a chibi? Oh my God, he likened it to Chipson. I'll see you when that's all glued up. It's amazing TV, isn't it? It's all going to be just very instant. Ciao. This is Sandy, just made her. Oh, don't need to see her yet. I'll bring a jig over and I'll explain her. I'm going to make a new one and I'll explain that. No, I won't, because I fucking screwed it down. Let's go over there to where I've screwed it. Oakley dokily. So here's the radius jig. You've all seen this before. Aaron from all the way over in the Australian is sending me some new radius jigs, ones that I can do various different radiuses in, and they're all very pretty colours. So fucking hurry up, Aaron, because the delays are all my fault. I didn't send him the measurements for my router, which I've had to draw on there in purple. The reason I'm doing things the way I'm doing is because everything on this blank is super flat. When you screw these jigs down, or when you fix these jigs down, if they're not fixed down perfectly and this jig is not perfectly flat and this is perfectly flat, then you will invariably, you will router a scalloping because this jig is going to follow the bed and not the fucking blank. So to get this perfect, I'm making new ones out of Korean worktop that I've had sat round for ages. This is much better, much flatter. So when I clamp it down to the worktop, I can ensure that this edge is dead flat to match the neck blank. It's important. I found on the last couple, I end up doing loads of manual sanding that I shouldn't be having to do because there's a dip in the fretboard and I've got to sand that out. It's a wanker, and that's a process I'm trying to avoid. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So I'm just going to get on with speedy uppy and I'll router this off. I tend to go side to side to get the worst of it off, and then I will finish off the spaff with up and down, slowly so that I don't get chatter. Okay, so now we can see why I've invented Sandy. Sandy is really cool. She's fully adjustable with these little adjustable toggles. I'm sure I don't have to explain how they're made because you're not fucking stupid. That is simple, isn't it? Sandy sits in there. She's pretty, secure. I've got a nice centre line that makes life very easy. Now, why have I invented Sandy? Well, this is the StewMac sanding block. Sponsored, not sponsored. But yeah, there you go, StewMac. They just make the best gear, don't they? That is an amazing sanding core. What you don't want when you're sanding with these is movement from side to side, because if you put movement from side to side, you're putting more pressure on the edges and you are not going to sand the radius that this fucking core is. Logic. Ask me how I know, because I've sanded necks poorly in the past.
He chose poorly.
So this little jig is basically going to stop me from getting sideways movement. Because it doesn't matter how good your router is, you still need to sand this radius in to get it perfect. That's not going to get it perfect first time, and it's certainly not going to get it very smooth. So you've got the arduous task of sanding away. I'll do that with the aid of a speedy uppy because I need the hoover, because you have to constantly be hoovering out your sandpaper because it gets shit high. Now again, you can see what the advantage of leaving this as one solid block. Even if my jig is not completely perfect, you'd have to push fucking hard on that to deflect it when you're sanding it. So in theory, if this bottom surface is flat and we just routed to this bottom surface, we should be as bang on as we can. Holding the workpiece square, true and level and flat is one of the hardest things for consistency. That's a fucking serious note, innit? I'm being a bit too serious here. Just leave it big so it don't bend. That's all you need to know. And that radius is spot on.
One eternity later.
That is all I've got time for. So that means by default, it's all you've got time for, I think. See you next week, everyone. Love you as always.